Good morning. Welcome back. This is a live show. We're very excited to be here. Happy Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Parasite and a little bit about that 1-inch barrier. We're going to be talking about the SAG Awards, of course. We're going to get into some fan questions, and then we're going to be remembering Buck Henry at the end of the show. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Now that we are back, yesterday was an American holiday, so we are here now for you, for your SJUing pleasure. I've got with me my Ed.
Hello, guys.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Your hot take shirt. I have got with me my Dan.
Hello there.
Hello, and let's get started. We're going to start talking about Parasite. So on Sunday, there were the SAG Awards, and the ensemble cast of Parasite got a massive standing ovation, and there's photos all over the place you can see of just people having these incredibly touched reactions. Dave Levy was one where he was, everyone is really rooting for them and was super excited for them. This movie has had a lot of what people are saying unlikely success. It was a big one for me. So, for biggest ever U.S. box office for a foreign film, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. At the Palme d'Or at Cannes, it got unanimous vote, and it is the first South Korean film to win that award, to get the Golden Palm. Nominated for 3 Golden Globes, won 1. First South Korean film to be nominated for Best Picture by the Academy. This movie is taking over. I believe it should be playing everywhere now. If it's not, they really need to get on that. So this is not the first time Bong Joon-Ho has found success. He did Snowpiercer, and he also did one of Netflix's early entries into feature film, which was Okja, which is a very cute movie about a very big pig thing. And so what we're hoping is he had that huge, beautiful speech, and he's talked about it, about the 1-inch barrier, about the fact that a lot of people cannot get into non-English language films because they find a difficulty dealing with subtitles. Do we think that now that this movie has become such a runaway success, this might influence people to start getting used to there being words on screen while actions are also happening?
Well, it's a runaway success on the sliding scale of foreign language films. I think it's a wonderful step in the right direction, particularly getting legitimized by being nominated for Best Picture, which is great. That's literally a handful of films that you could say that about. So I think it's a positive step, but I think if you were overall awareness, it has certainly not reached the penetration of even I would think a mid-market studio release. Right. Unfortunately, I think public awareness of Dolittle probably would be a little bit higher than public awareness of Parasite, which is its own issue. But I think it's a great step in the right direction, and this is where the Academy Awards can do some good, and why, when you see me getting all blustery about it, people say, well, it's just an award show. What does it matter? I think more than the winners, it legitimizes things to a certain extent to a wide audience, and so I think the Academy recognizing Parasite as much as it has certainly legitimizes it and says like, oh, it's not just a foreign language. Oh, it's good, which is it sucks when something is like, oh, well, I guess I should go see it.
I know, and this is a thing that like Twitter and film Twitter we always get into is like, do these awards matter? If you watch a lot of movies and you're really up on movies, maybe not.
Yeah.
But if you're my mom, who follows word of mouth and is starting to hear about this movie because it's doing so well, then yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It does. I'd never heard of Billy Bob Thornton or Sling Blade until it was nominated for an Academy Award. Now, I'm sure people here in Los Angeles at the time knew about Billy Bob, but there is, we're very spoiled here in that we're sort of in one of the epicenters of all of the activity and the buzz and it opens here first. And it's easy to forget that, it takes a while for word to spread. And so I think the Academy does do a lot of movies a great service by when they're recognized, which is why, like I said, I get frustrated when something like a Hereditary or Taron Egerton and Rocket Man or, is overlooked, because I think it does legitimize that to a certain extent of people, or at least expose them to something that they should go see, something they should seek out.
Well, also the fact I saw Dolomite Dolomite is my name, at the theater. And I know that if it would, garnered any sort of Oscar recognition, that other people could too. Other people would be moved too.
Oh yeah, and it probably would have pushed it into wider release. More theaters would have picked it up.
Well, with
maybe
Netflix,
not like super wide,
I don't know. They don't let they do the theaters because they have to.
Yeah.
But don't they do like a little tiny reissue around award time and stuff like that? Didn't they do that with Roma? I could be super mistaken.
They
obviously.
may. The problem with Netflix is like a lot of the showcases. For example, AMC does the Best Picture showcase. They will not include Netflix movies because Netflix doesn't adhere to the theatrical window that they feel that they should. It's why Netflix isn't in most of the theater chains. So that's the tough part, is for Netflix to re-release any of their movies, there's a limited number of theater chains that are going to take that on. So they have to go back to the smaller ones. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's a separate issue.
Well, either way, that'd be good business for little theaters. Like I think I saw Dolomite at the Lamely, and you just end up in these different theaters, and they got you're when they give you real butter to clog your arteries instead of that synthetic stuff. You know you're at the artisanal movie shoppy. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Ye old movie shopping.
Ye old movie shopping.
Ye old cinema. So I enjoy that, and I think it couldn't hurt to kind of loosen up some of these rules and let some of these lambs frolic, because I think I saw 1917 because of all the awards buzz, honestly, and because I'm a cinematography geek.
Yeah.
So the Deakins thing and the awards buzz got me to see that movie, whereas I would have left it to all the Dunkirks to talk about that. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be pejorative. I'm just saying I would have left it to all the people who love those movies every single time they come out to talk about them. I would have left that to them. But 1917 appealed to me because of the Golden Globe and because of the Deakins thing. So.
Right, and it's also like, there are the Globes or the SAG Awards, which we'll talk about later, as I said, but those aren't, unfortunately, a lot of people don't even pay attention to a lot of those. It is like really the Oscars, kind of your big nut. And so...
I'm sorry.
I gotta get better at phrasing.
I have the mind of a 6-year-old or a 6th grader. Hopefully not a 6-year-old. Yikes.
Oh no!
I have a mind of a 6th grader. Keep them off the internet.
Okay. Can I just say one thing? I had it in my mind driving over, and I just want to make sure I don't forget it. The thing I think we would look at as to how this can change the game is that this is a really high concept story, and I know there's been many foreign movies that have been high concept, but I'm talking about high concept and at the right time for people to accept it. And he had a U.S. track record working with Netflix, working with Tilda Swinton, doing the Snowpiercer jazz, doing Okja, doing The Host, which had like one of the best foreign CGI monsters I've ever seen. You know what I mean? And it's just like he's worked his way up to this. This is a perfect apex moment because this story would connect with Americans a lot because we're one of the countries in the world that can relate to, I ain't got no money, but somebody that's worth less than me has money right there. Oh, that's really sad. How can I get some of that money? How can I insinuate myself into that life of where money just falls off these people onto me and onto my waiting hands? You know what I mean? It relates to Americans a lot, this movie.
I think it also helps with, Danielle, help if you don't mind fact checking me on this, or Ryan. I believe that Neon is handling the distribution of Parasite here in the United States. I could please correct me if I'm wrong. But another thing with Parasite is that it won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. It is okay. Thank you. It won the Palme d'Or in Cannes back in May, I think, of last year or June, and it came in. It had already done well in South Korea, so it came in with a bunch of buzz already.
Right.
But I think when we talk about the importance of finding the right distributor, when you look at what Neon has done with Parasite, which is something that maybe a bigger studio or a bigger company would not have done, which is that they've allowed it to hang around now for like 3 months. They got the rights to distribute it here in the United States. They opened it small. It did very well, but that was a couple months ago. But they haven't tried to do the kind of pump and dump strategy that a bigger distributor with a lot more titles would do. They allowed it to open small. It did great in limited release, but it's opened gradually over the weeks, and now you can still find it, even though it opened small a couple months ago. You can still find it, and I think that's the importance of having a distributor. And I love it. Neon and A24. There are so many small studios and distributors that are just killing it right now because they are able to give movies the TLC that they need, and they're not a subdivision necessarily of a studio that's got not only 3 major Christmas blockbusters to market, but all of their awards movies, and it just gets lost in the shuffle. I love when you see a distributor like Neon that finds success with a movie like Parasite because it it validates that thing of like, we're going to take it slow with this movie. We're not going to try to throw it out in 1,000 theaters at once. We have the confidence and the time and the money, hopefully, to let it breathe. And that's what's happening with Parasite. It's letting it breathe and find its place in the. That's how movies used to work.
Yeah, and I find that, like, even when it comes to like stories and building and stuff, it's always best to do that slow burn. Like, let it go, let it see what it does, instead of like throwing it in everyone's face before it's ready. I love you, cats. You're the best. No cat slander from me.
Well, I mean, you guys are both very right in that it let the word of mouth breathe to the point where it could infect every people around. Some central person sees it, they start watching, super cool review shows that gush about it above all the other movies, and it just starts to infect you over time. Whereas if they just dumped it on us, we could miss it and then wake up and go, oh, what was that? And it's gone. And that doesn't speak to quality. That doesn't speak to the quality of the picture.
Well, and so speaking of quality, so it's both Joon-Ho and South Korean director Park Chan-wook. They've both found cult success, and now, obviously Joon-Ho, bigger success in the United States. So what do you think it is about their movies in particular, and kind of this, what they were calling in the mid-2000s, or mid-2010s, the Korean New Wave. What do you think it is about their movies that helps to break that non-English speaking film barrier to Western audiences?
Well, with Director Bong, as they call him, Director Bong, I think that particularly with this film, but also with Snowpiercer and Okja, is he's got this wry sensibility that I think transcends all language. And I think that's what helps, is that there's this sort of maliciousness to a certain degree underneath all of them, but also
slightly
satire,
menacing,
cultural satire. Again, with the cross-cultural satire, Korean films, but the satire in each one of them, the commentary that it's making is really global and universal. And I think that's what's helped, Okja, Snowpiercer, Parasite connect globally, is that people around the world can see the things in these films and connect to it. So I think he's very good at tapping into very universal themes, universal things about culture and society that aren't just an American thing or a South Korean thing. They're human. They're very human feeling.
Plus, he also has such a distinct visual style as well. Like the way that he, not so much in Parasite. There's some of that, but if you look at Snowpiercer and an Okja, and just how, again, like there's really like almost parody, almost camp with this like undertone of menace that grows throughout the movie.
Well, it's like they're kind of the best performed camp movies, the ones that are campy. It's like, what if great actors were being super serious, but the camera was the camp, rather than most of the actors going, man, see, I'm sliding down the bat pole. Look at me. It's weird. Even though they do say that Adam West kind of played it serious, which makes it funnier. That's funnier. That's so funny.
Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal were definitely bad villain being in Okja, but it worked. It was amazing.
Oh, it worked absolutely. Them, But Tilda Swinton can do that, though. It's why her as the Ancient One works. Don't at me with the wokeness, but like she definitely works as ageless wonder person. You know what I'm saying? Because they tend to get a little screwy over time, or we can't really relate to them because they're so old. She can do that, and she can also do just banal evil, like she did Michael Clayton.
Right.
You know what I mean? She can represent that. Anyway, the bottom line is he knows how to direct actors very well, and performances that go across cultures. You're talking about the themes, the performances do. And I think that's interesting. You know what I mean? They're really supremely naturalistic, and they're about things that everybody can understand. And I got to point it out, he really likes economics. He doesn't pound you over the head with it, but each one of these movies have economic ramifications to the plot.
I know that you're a fan of Oldboy, right?
Yes. Well, it's just, that's one thing I will say. When you look at Korean movies, sometimes you'll be like, geez Louise, these are some rough stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like a uniform.
Oldboy's rough.
You know what I mean? It seems like a uniform cultural thing of like, look, life is hard. Things are going to get rough. We're going to shoot it beautifully and act it well, but boy, you're going to go some places. And I think that's what my boy was talking about when Iron Man can't go through an old boy situation. Captain America can't see Captain America can't be the person and I saw the devil. You know what I mean? These guys, Falcon is not going to be in the audition or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when you're looking at foreign films, or even just so-called cinema, the characters can go through such change that it makes them seem way more valuable than certain things were. You know things aren't going to change. You know people aren't going to die. You know there aren't really those stakes.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to talk some more about foreign films and foreign language films particularly. But first, what are your favorite films from each of those filmmakers or from both of those filmmakers?
I mean, I'm more I'm more Joon-Ho. Like I said, I saw a little bit of the Lady Vengeance stuff, and I was like, man, that's super cool. I need to get into this, and it just slipped under the 1-inch barrier. You know what I mean? But I do like Okja because I like the fact that it's playing with our love of animals, but the economics of killing them and the sales job that they're doing in Okja of like, this is a new animal that we're all going to feast on, but love it while it's alive and put it in beauty pageants and stuff. There's a sickness. There's a sickness to a culture that would do that. And again, Bong Joon-Ho is very good at showing the sickness, the banal sickness of people in Parasite, the banal sickness of people being rich and just choosing amongst their friends who to give these jobs to. And one of your friends might not be qualified. It might cause a giant powder cake that destroys 2 families. You know what I mean?
Right.
By doing this sort of nepotistic way of seeing life, this non-meritocracy. Most of these movies are about non-meritocracies.
Right. For me, Handmaid. Is a great, really beautiful film. That's one of my favorites. And then for me, it was that's really hard because I love Snowpiercer. I love Okja, but it's one of those ones where I think that he does his best when his message is more elegant and nuanced.
I get that.
And Okja was just like hitting you over the head with it. Meat industry sucks. Which is not wrong.
Yeah, it was the Joker of the meat industry.
Yeah, it was very much like, I've said this, but it's like, have you ever seen Don't Drink Your Juice in South Central?
Yeah.
Where Keenan pops up and goes, message. Like, that's very much kind of what that. And it's a great movie, but now I would say Parasite is easily my favorite of his.
Yeah, for Bong Joon-Ho, it's Parasite. It's a great film amongst many great films.
Yeah.
I need to get a little. I need to get a little more versed in Park Chan-wook. I mean, I've seen Old Boy. I saw the first of the Vengeance films. That might be the only 2 of those that I've seen. But I enjoyed both of them very much. Foreign cinema is something that I am endeavoring to become even more versed in, because there's because it's right there, that barrier is really superficial compared to what you can find if you just even scratch the surface of what's available.
Well, and see, that's when something like this happens, when someone does start getting the award recognition, is like, I talk about this all the time. We all have blind spots to our own kind of biases, and bias doesn't necessarily mean like, I think this thing is bad and this thing is good. It can also be like, oh, well, this thing just it's not part of my world, and therefore it's not something that I really pay a lot of attention to. And so something like this can really be like, you know what, I haven't been watching as many non-English language films that are out there, and there are lots of really good ones. Well, so why am I not doing that?
Yeah, and I think we'll get to it when we do our foreign film starter kits. And I know your guys' list is longer than mine, just because I wanted to keep mine very centric to trying to talk about these areas of the world, and also like something I feel like you could. It's genre. I think Parasite is very fantastic because it's like a straight up melodrama, drama / horror / whatever thing that / comedy / satire. Whereas when you're trying to get people into foreign films, I usually just point them to genres they like and give them a foreign film in that genre so that they understand the genre conventions and what's going on, and then they go, oh, I like that Korean X movie. I like that Japanese X movie.
That's exactly how I approach that. So, Dan, what was the first foreign language film that really got it for you?
Oh, man.
I know, right?
That's tough. I mean, good gracious. One of them was probably Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because that came out in 2000. Well, it got the push here in the U.S. in 2000,
right? And
that was one of the first ones that I think it had similarities to Parasite in that it was recognized by the Academy in several categories and sort of was legitimized in many ways by that recognition, but also just to the different aesthetics and yet the beauty of that film. It really did open my eyes to, okay, there's a whole world out there. There's a whole world of cinema that I haven't even seen or that I've barely seen. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was definitely one of the first foreign language films that I saw that I was like, oh wow, there's a lot out there that I don't know about, and I want to find out more.
Yeah, this is. I think we're right around the same time. These were the dual wielded pistols of Basic B foreign films that I loved. You got your Run Lola Run, and you got your Amelie.
There you go.
Those were I was a girl of a certain age.
Oh yeah.
Those were your introductions to non-English speaking cinema.
Yeah, the nickel-plated whimsy. Chow, 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 chow.
Manic Pixie Dream Girl, give it to me, put it in my veins. There was a year when me and all my friends dressed like Amelie. There was no shame. We all had the big boots for no good reason. It was just a mess. But those are two really beautiful films. Amelie is very whimsical and romantic and cute and sweet, and then Run Lola Run is just this like kinetic ball of like energy that's really fun and really clever and takes you on this journey that with different timelines that don't make no sense.
Well, and the funny thing is, I've always been into a certain sort of foreign film because the obviously the martial arts background. Sometimes I would be watching things that weren't subbed or dubbed, so I'd be like, to understand why somebody was getting whooped on, I would have to I'd have to conquer the 1-inch barrier, and I did it readily. And then, obviously, when you're a person of a certain age and you're a kid, and John Woo comes out, and there's people are circulating, different colored videotapes, and they're like, and it's like,
I love tape trading.
Tapes, and so Hard Boiled was kind of my, like I said, genre got me into it. You like shooting, you like fighting, you like cops. John Woo's Hard Boiled. It's especially the sub over the dub, just like it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful movie about things that you can totally relate to: cop drama, mafia stuff, infiltration, that sort of undercover, the Departed sort of thing, but with so much more action. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I liked. I saw this Korean movie, I Saw the Devil, and it's amazing because it's one of the few times I've ever been watching a movie, and during it started tugging me different directions as to who to root for. And I'm not talking about Marriage Story or nothing like that. I'm talking about like a guy, and it's a genre movie. It's about a serial killer who kills a lady, and her fiance is like the equivalent of the FBI agent. And he tracks the guy down, and he can't just bring him to justice. He has to make him hurt. And he does it so much that you start to go like, boy, who's the bad guy in this movie? Between the serial killer and the cop chasing him. And you're never going to see that over here. And that's why we're talking about this. I would hope that something like Parasite could break through and have us kind of take more chances like that in movies over here.
Well, so now that we've talked about some of our kind of entrances, we want to give the foreign language, the non-English speaking film starter kit. I know there's a lot of movies, so we're gonna have to like crank these out.
Yeah.
But I want to hear, Ed. I want to hear your choices.
Okay, they're very simple. The Audition, because it's really horrible. If you can get through the Audition, you can watch any other movie that goes to these different places. I want to say The Raid Redemption, man.
Yeah.
The Raid Redemption has such fantastic action direction that you put up with a lot of nonsense.
But nonsense is the Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that. We had a slight hiccup, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a chat goal. Thank y'all so much for sticking with us. If we get 500 likes, I'm just now reading this, we will do some extra rounds of movie fights at the end of every show this week, or if it's a show that Roxy is hosting, we will do TV fights.
Oh.
So... and we'll still, this doesn't replace any movie fight that we might do in the future, but if we get 500 likes, y'all are going to get some movie fighting at the end of some episodes.
I don't even know what chat goals are. I'm learning something new every day.
Oh, we have chat goals. One of them, one of them was that if we got a certain amount of likes, we had to say something nice about Ryan. Billy ruined it.
Well, why should we have to get likes to say nice things about Ryan?
I agree. I think that's what the chat wanted, because the chat thinks that we are mean to Ryan. Oh. Thank you, Rai. All right, so we're going to get back in and do a quick recap. We were talking about, Ed, your foreign language film starter.
Yeah, just basic B stuff. Look at a bunch of Jackie Chan stuff, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Wheels on Meals and Project A and all this different stuff. Super Cop. Marketed to us as Super Cop. Marketed over there as something else. Anyway, the bottom line is, look at that basic stuff. Look at Hard Boiled in specific. It's like Departed with a bunch more action. Look at Old Boy. You'll be shocked and amazed and chagrined. Look at I Saw the Devil, the movie I was talking about. It's basically just a FBI agent versus a serial killer, and you end up not knowing who's the good guy because so much bad stuff happens on both sides. It's pretty amazing. The Audition, if you can watch that, you can watch anything. Ninja Scroll, do the subs version of Ninja Scroll. It's amazing. Be basic. And I wanted to talk about a movie called La Haine. It came out in 1995. Jodie Foster championed it, and it got a little pub. It's about Saeed, Hubert, and Vince, three friends whose friend just got killed by the police. And the city of Paris is about to have one of their riots.
Oh, I do remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
And do that tenor of like a riot about to happen, the storms on the horizon. These three friends find a gun and just go around wilding the whole day with this kind of carefree, whimsical yet deadly attitude.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those movies about like real disaffected youth, real people who have been impacted by social programs failing and going crazy.
That's great. All right, so I'll get into my basic Bs. Not all of them, a lot of them. So if you are into your horrors and your spooks, Let the Right One In is a great one. The original Grudge is really good. We've mentioned Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, if that is something that you already know you like. I love the House of Flying Dragon, or the House of Flying Daggers. I really love Hero. Hero was one of legitimately one of my favorite movies. But also Don't Sleep on Anbach. That's another one that's just like frenetic and amazing, and that's what makes it so good. If you're looking for like some pure drama, go with Roma. If you want something a little sexy, or a lot of really sexy, Y Tu Mamá También. Those would be my basic starter pack for getting into non-English films.
Okay, I'll tell you this quickly. Cinema Paradiso, it's an Italian film that is literally about loving film. If you love film and you haven't seen Cinema Paradiso, you should see Cinema Paradiso. Seven Samurai, really anything Kurosawa did, but Seven Samurai, which was like the movie that invented the we're putting a team together thing that is now like if you like Westerns where they put a team together, or superhero movies where they put a team together, Seven Samurai is the movie basically that invented we're putting a team together. It's like 3 hours, it's worth it, trust me. City of God, from Brazil, one of the best crime dramas that came out when I was in college, and that just like bullseye. So good, such a great movie. Ed, you mentioned the Raid Redemption, Raid 2 also just incredible. Both of those movies are so good. Breathless, Jean-Luc Godard from France in the early 60s, revolutionary film for you can see how that film influenced the next generation of filmmakers and film in general. Seventh Seal, Ingmar Bergman. There's a lot of stuff. Bergman. Not the brightest films, but Seventh Seal is a good entry level into like, is this digging Bergman. So Seventh Seal, Life is Beautiful, Roberto Benigni, won Best Actor, it won Best Foreign Film. That was another one that the Oscars really legitimized. Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo del Toro. The movie that beat Pan's Labyrinth was The Lives of Others, which is a movie from Germany, which is also really good. A big upset in the Best Foreign Film race. People thought Pan's Labyrinth was going to have it because it won it was nominated for I think Best Director.
Yeah.
lot of stuff. Playtime, French movie, Jacques Tati made these. They could work as silent films, but the big character is Monsieur Hulot, and he's in a few different Jacques Tati films. But Playtime is sort of the one that's like the pinnacle. Great physical comedy, just really cleverly built. You can see influences on like Wes Anderson and a lot of movies like that. Just very meticulously constructed films and a lot of great set pieces. And then there's one that's on Netflix now from, I believe it's Senegal, called Atlantics, which is a really remarkable and unique film about this group of young men who goes out to sea, and then the people that are left behind in the town, and then all these weird things start happening, and it's really really interesting to watch. And then there's a French film out called Les Miserables, not the Hugh Jackman one that I really liked. That's just a great. It's actually very similar to the film you were speaking about, Ed, which is it's set in Paris. It's set during right before the riots that happened there not too long ago, and it's sort of about this one police action and then the ramifications that it has throughout the neighborhood, and it's sort of thematically tied to Les Miserables in that it's still in the same neighborhood, but it's contemporary, it's current. Yeah. And then Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is another French film, which is also out and which is great. And I could keep. I'll stop there, but like that's start with those and then go from there.
And I love how you and I have I got to get all these out. Oh God, they're gonna cut me off. It's like the music's playing, and Danielle's like this movie, that movie,
well, because I was like, a lot of mine already got named, so I was like, well, that makes it easy. I'm just like crossing them off as like you were. I'm like, okay, cool. We talked about this. We talked about that one. Alrighty, and so that leads us to story number 2. We've got our SAG Awards recap. As much fun as it would be to just talk about Brad and Jen, we're actually going to talk about some of these.
Those two crazy kids. Will they ever work it out?
No.
They're like our Han and Leia.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you like the dad. He's a little ne'er-do-well. The mom seems long-suffering.
True.
That's fair. All right, so for the Motion Picture Awards, with outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role, Joaquin Phoenix won for Joker. Yep. And so with the SAG Awards, I feel like most of you know this, but just to say, these are the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Mm-hmm. So these are actors voting on performances that they found to be the most compelling and amazing performances of the voting season. Next we've got, and that one's not, I don't feel like that's a huge surprise that he would win for Joker.
No, I mean, Joaquin, any thought that perhaps, and I thought that perhaps this could be the case, that he might be losing some momentum to particularly Adam Driver as the award season went on, I think is pretty much gone now. I mean, he's as much of a lock, I think, as you can get for Best Actor at this point.
Yeah. In the next category, the female actor, you can kind of see the difference between the Screen Actors Guild and other award shows, because you can see Lupita Nyong'o in there for us.
Well, the same thing with Taron Egerton, who got in there for Rocket Man for the last one. And so for outstanding performance by a female actor in a lead role, went to Renee Zellweger for Judy. Judy's real good, y'all. She's very good in it. And that did get Lupita in there for outstanding performance by a male actor in supporting role. That went to Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, who gave a very funny, slightly shady speech. Just a little shady. And also they gave a nod to Jamie Foxx in Just Mercy, which is, I think that might be one of his only noms for the season, but I would have to look that up.
Feet.
Outstanding performance by a female actor in a supporting role, Laura Dern, Marriage Story.
She's got the mo. She and Brad Pitt both the kind of latecomers as far as like having the momentum, but now they've got all the momentum going into Oscar season.
Oh, and one thing I would say, just I don't want to backtrack to Brad Pitt to ignore Laura Dern in any way, shape, or form. However, just imagine Brad Pitt's roasting you. Like, what are you gonna say? You ugly. You fat. You old. You can't say anything. He's a beautiful Robert Redford clone who's going to be running this town long into he's going to retire at 80 and they're going to call it early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's amazing. Just imagine him up on in front of God and Country roasting you about your foot fetish or your this or your that. I mean, geez Louise, what amazing. Anyway, Laura Dern, that monologue about marriage. And about how it breaks down and about who benefits. What's that cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from the marital situation? It isn't who you think sometimes. Sometimes people are restricted. Sometimes people are boxed in by the marriage situation. Sometimes there's an ownership situation. And you are entitled to X, Y, and Z. And I was going there, Clee should get all my money when I get rich.
Well, as someone who literally was a paralegal doing, I could talk about this all day. Ladies and gentlemen, marriage is an LLC, and if you think of marriage as an LLC, everything makes a lot more sense. I could literally talk about that for ages. It is an LLC. It is a small business. There you go. One's front of house, one... Okay, stop.
Well, it's not how I feel about marriage at all, but you can always tell where a writer is coming from with marriage, because the one line that always sticks out to me is from The Nice Guys, when Russell Crowe says, marriage is buying a house for someone you hate, which is so cynical.
Okay, that's more cynical. There is love and stuff, but as far as signing the paperwork and as far as the law is concerned, they don't care about your love. They don't care who cheated on who. Marriage is a business.
Yeah.
So next, sorry.
Lots of artists, I'm just saying, have a very strong feelings about marriage.
And like John Osterman, Dr. Manhattan would say, all relationships end in tragedy on a long enough timeline. That seems to be cynical, but it seems to be factual a lot of times too.
That one's a true one. All right, so outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. Parasite was the winner, and this, I feel like, we have talked so much about how the movie has gotten so many accolades, and people talk about how great the movie is, and yet the cast hasn't been really recognized for the good work they do in it. And I do think that has something to do with a lot of folks when they look at acting, they think a lot of it is about like dialogue. It's all about the dialogue. And if I can't understand what they're saying because I don't speak that language, then who am I to judge whether or not that's good acting? You put it in front of a bunch of actors who know that it's way more than the dialogue and know everything that goes into acting, and they're like, oh yeah, it's these guys.
Yeah. And this was a case where 1917, who I think is now, because it won the Producers Guild Award also this weekend, which puts it, that's a very big harbinger for a likely Academy Awards Best Picture winner, but it was not nominated in this. And this is the SAG, a lot of people say the SAG equivalent of Best Picture, but the actors are the biggest voting block in the Academy. So I think what we are seeing, and the awards season is a very amorphous blob of a thing, but it seems like the two front runners right now are 1917 and Parasite. For sure. But many a year have we gone into the Oscar season saying, or even the ceremony saying, these are the front runners, and there's a surprise. So.
Well, and do you think, maybe this is a tiny bit off topic, but it just popped in my head. Do you think there's the same problem with the Academy that there is with the regular voting populace, i.e. the young people who are eligible to vote are just like, yeah, having fun, look at me, we're doing whatever they want to do, and the oldsters are like, pushing that crypto aside and making sure they put their ballot in, because it's one of the last things they'll do.
Yes.
Is that?
I think that particularly with older members of the Academy, and you've heard, I was reading a story about this, about Netflix. They're saying that there's some people in the Academy, particularly older members of the Academy, who no matter what will never vote for a Netflix movie for Best Picture, because to them, that's not what a movie is. It's and not that. And
these prejudices can lend towards foreign films, and
I think that there would be a lot of members that would say, like, well, yeah, director maybe, but Best Picture, I would not consider it for Best Picture, just because, to them, it doesn't fit the traditional mold of what a movie that wins Best Picture is. And so I think that worked against Roma last year.
Absolutely.
And I think it could be a potential strike against Parasite this year. It's not fair. It's really not fair. Really? But I think you have to take it into consideration.
I just wanted us to touch on it.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. And then finally, outstanding action performance by a stunt ensemble in a motion picture. I just like mentioning these because that's like, stunt people do such good work, man, and they are so few recognized, and they put themselves in such danger. You hear about accidents on set happening all the time. Again, if you are really interested in watching what it's like to be a female stunt worker, check out the documentary Double Dare. It's all about Zoe Bell and her rise from being like a Xena stunt double all the way through Kill Bill. It's amazing. It also talks about other stunt people and like an older stunt lady who's like still doing work. Go check that out. But the winner for that was Avengers Endgame. With
an asterisk. Because John Wick, again, not nominated. The Irishman was nominated for Best Stunts, and John Wick 3 wasn't.
You know what?
Come on.
Chad Stahelski did something to these old fogies, because or to all the academies of everything. I don't know what he did. Maybe at some party, there's the head of the Screen Actors Guild, the PGA, and the DGA, and he just does something horrible.
But I think, again, it's you have to fight these biases, which is like, I think that there's probably a block of the SAG Awards voters that don't care about the category. John Wick 3 is not the kind of movie that we nominate for an award. And the Irishman is, but John Wick 3 isn't.
But also, and if you look at Avengers Endgame, there was more acting in the blowing up. When things blew up, there was some sense memory to the stuntmen did sense memory and meditation before they got blown up. What?
I mean, I'm going to say till I'm blue in the face, but I did juried awards. Juried awards and specialty categories, I think you would see a lot of difference. It's why we will lose to James Corden from now till the end of time. As long as we're both nominated, it's the fact that, that people see things, and if you're maybe not quite in the thick of it, you might not know. And I'm not speaking just on behalf of me. I'm speaking on behalf of Epic Rap Battles and
Randy
Rainbow, all of the other shows that we've been nominated with. Oftentimes but people see James Corden, so that's a show. Nothing against James Corden, but it's just like when you throw everything in one fell swoop to a collective voting thing, and not everyone is super into that thing.
That's the thing, I know.
Yeah, so that it's just that's what happens, and so I'm telling you, juried awards, I think, at least for nominations, would be, I think, a great improvement across many fields. But that's just me.
All right, so that's we wanted to talk specifically about the movies and how they're going to affect the award season going forward. We might get a chance later or going towards closer to the Emmys and other things to talk about the TV awards. But this is, as I said, this is the part of the show where we thank y'all so much for supporting all of the stuff that we do, because it's how we get to do more of this stuff. You guys do such a great job of, you do turn on your notifications, you do comment, you hit that bell, you hit those likes so that we say something nice about Ryan, or to get some movie fights questions or some TV fights questions at the end of shows. And that's
140 away.
We're how many?
140.
We are 140 away. It's time. Start cranking out them likes, y'all. Don't forget, we have got other things happening on the channels this week. We just dropped our honest trailer for Joker. Doing some Joker stuff. And then, of course, the commentary for that will be out later this week. We are getting ready. We taped our Screen Junkies show for our Oscar picks, so that's going to be coming out soon. And as we've said, our Galaxy Quest documentary, Never Surrender, is available now, where you get all of your movies on digital. So go check out the links in the description below. And also, we are still spending January sharing links where you can donate to help out with the Australian wildfires. You can check out the links for the description below for that as well. This one, segment 3, we've got a real quick fan question. This is via the community tab. Samuel Bull. Oh, that's a good movie. You better star in Westerns or something. Which movie in the MCU should be turned into a musical? I personally want to see Ant-Man the musical, with people in any costumes wandering around and lights flashing with music to signify shrinking.
Oh, so this would be like a stage musical. I guess this is a stage musical, not just a movie musical.
All right.
Oh, that's a horse of a different color.
That's a game changer.
Well, no, I think mine still stands, so I'll just go. Avengers Endgame, and I just want to see the people up top in black, but with glow sticks that they spin in a circular fashion to do the portals, like portals, interception, like Blake Bortles. They're all coming through the portals, and then the actors come through, and I just think. All of the Tony Stark center stage, Jesus Christ Superstar style with the glove and all the pyrotechnics that are coming out. Dude, that's so sick. I think that'd be really great.
But would you have to pay to see 22 other musicals before you... Because that could be a strike against, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you know how Broadway works. You got to start on off Broadway, then you got to take off Broadway where Tony Stark is just wearing a cardboard glove.
Agent Carter's in an off-Broadway show. You should really see before you see the Avengers Endgame music.
The black box version of Avengers Endgame.
Oh God. I too have an Endgame. Oh, you just brought me back bad memories of the theater. Speaking of Agent Carter, I was going to go with Captain America: The First Avenger. I think because of its kind of like old-timey style, especially like the musical numbers that he does with everybody, like all of the women when he's performing at the USOs. I think that would be almost like. You could do it like a cabaret or a Chicago style where it's like, I'm telling you this story and then music will happen and then the events of the story will happen around you. So I think it would really lend itself to something like that.
Well, I think we've learned that either of the Spider-Man films is a bad idea.
No Spideys.
Broadway has borne that out. It
Maybe
hasn't.
Into the Spider-Verse, but that'd be it.
It hasn't quite worked yet, but again, the MCU. Perhaps the stage is where the Incredible Hulk belongs. Because you think about it, you've got the inner torment and turmoil. You've got the love story. It could be like a modern-day Phantom of the Opera.
Dual casting.
Dual casting.
You got some stagecraft going on. The transformation scenes.
Okay, I'm
gonna go.
really,
Oh man, you put up that screen with that light behind it, and he starts getting bigger.
I'm going with the Incredible Hulk. Maybe that's where the Hulk sing.
Well, dude, in his mind, like when he gets really mad, it's like, me so mad, I so mad, smash, 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 whatever. And he's talking to himself. He can talk to Banner in his mind to.
Well, because that's the
Be
thing
like
about,
a Javert, Jean
Yes.
Valjean dialogue back and forth.
Well, that's the thing about musicals is the way that it works is that the musical and the music hits when it's the most. There's something so emotional or so crazy happening. It can only express itself through song, and I can't think of anything that is best expressed through song than smashing. That is it.
Well, and there's so many opportunities for you to do the tropes of the Hulk, where like Banner's on stage and he's singing a song, and then some thugs come along. I didn't mean to rhyme that. And then they grab him and throw him behind something, and then boom, the Hulk pops out. There's so many opportunities to do.
If they can do King Kong.
Right.
They can do the Hulk. They can figure out how to do a Hulk. They did the whole Lion King. They did the whole Savannah. They can figure out one Hulk.
Give us the money, whoever owns those rights now.
They did Rocky. Which was weird because I read that there was a ring on the stage, so it's like a stage on a stage. Whatever.
That's a hat on a hat.
That is a hat on a hat. Yeah. And we're going to end this now on a somber note. Segment number 4, we are remembering Buck Henry via The Garden. Buck Henry has passed away at the age of 89. He helped shape one of the most revolutionary films of the 1960s, which is The Graduate. He co-wrote one of the funniest movies of all time, What's Up, Doc? Scripted the movie that became the springboard for Nicole Kidman's career, To Die For, a movie that winds up coming up a lot on here that I love, Defending Your Life. He was also a part of that. Numerous SNL performances. He's one of those guys where even if you don't necessarily recognize him, he's definitely like, oh, I know him. He was so funny. Oh, I saw him in there and he was so funny.
Played Liz Lemon's dad on 30 Rock.
Yeah, plays Lemon's dad on 30 Rock, so that would be somewhere you could see him for. 89 years old, a huge influence on the industry, and just what a life.
I mean, in to Get Smart, he created that with Mel Brooks to be in the writers. Can you imagine in the '60s being in the writers' room for Get Smart with like Buck Henry, Mel Brooks, everybody that worked on that show? Oh my God, give me a break! And yeah, SNL like. He hosts. I looked it up. He hosted twice a season for the first 5 seasons. I mean, he was a real influential name in comedy, and then which went on to influence so many other people in comedy, as we mentioned in 30 Rock, obviously, and so many appearances later in his career. Yeah, just one of those names that you might not know right away, but like a hugely influential.
A lot of the stuff that you like is because of stuff that he did.
Well, the influence that some of the people you like are influenced by some of the things that, and even some of the people who influence you were influenced by people who were influenced by him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like the Steve Allen Show, people don't remember that. The Steve Allen Show was a real break from the form. It was really weird for its time. And one of the things about being a writer that has a particular voice like he had is it's sometimes when you're younger, it's hard to tell people that this weird thing that you wrote down, it'll play. I trust me, it'll play. And early on, he got experience with Get Smart and stuff like that to learn, my stuff will play. I'm like one of those young Conan writers. I mean, or rather, they're like him.
Right.
They get all this weird stuff, and they find out that it plays, and then you have this great career. And to have The Graduate be one of your major one of your major screenwriting efforts. That's amazing. That's a generational film. Plastics.
Yeah, he's
Absolutely.
in it too. He's the clerk, the hotel, the desk clerk.
So I can only aspire to a career like that. Like not super. He could go to the market, right?
Yeah.
He was rich, influential. The people in the know knew who he was and liked him a lot. He had the gold coins to get into the John Wick Hotel of being famous. You know what I mean? But he didn't get harassed at the market.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's what I would aspire to.
So yes, rest in peace, Buck Henry. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. So we are going to get ready to head on out. Ed, where can the people find you?
You can check.
1 second, more than they have 45 likes in whatever.
Oh wait, okay, we have
45 likes by the time we're done with the plugs. We're not going to stick around. We got a challenge.
We have to challenge them. Sorry. So Ed.
Okay. Well, I have a podcast. No, okay. I have a podcast called Nerd Goat, where we talk to interesting people about their favorite fictional character. Ryan was on, and he did a great rendition of Captain America. He talked about how he might be the greatest character of all time. Ding. And Dan was on and did Chief Brody from Jaws, and it was an amazing episode. So I think you'll like the people on it. I think you'll like the show. Also, Reboot It with myself and Billy Business and the guys from Nerd Goat. We reboot movies in about an hour and a half with the clock on, no cuts. We have to do it right. Sometimes we fail even. It's a Flying Melinda's act. We're the Flying Graysons sometimes. And
you fall.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes we fall, and that's the danger of it, and that's why you should watch it. It's a great YouTube channel. Reboot It. And Edgar Destroys on Twitter. Thank you, guys.
Okay, perfect. As I said earlier, please check out all of the great things that we have up right now. We have got Joker. That is up, so you can go make the clicky on that. We will be having the Joker.
Make the clicky.
Make the clicky.
Make the clicky.
Do the clicks. So go and do the clicks on that one. We also, the Honest Trailer commentary should be up for that tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Charting later today. Yeah, I got to talk about Bad Boys. Wow. Holy
Those guys
crap.
are I know. I haven't seen it yet.
Woo! That's what I would say.
They hit the like thing.
Oh,
Yes!
yeah. You hit it.
Any movie that turns Dan into Dusty Rhodes, you gotta see that. Woo! Or Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Woo!
Woo! All right, so he's going to be talking about runaway success. If y'all were really ready for Bad Boys 3, and then we will see you back here tomorrow. Go follow us on @ScreenJunkiesU. Bye.